but the camera management becomes way harder. Now you have to keep track of PNM, CPNM, and hourglass all at once. Forgetting where one of them are will most likely result in death. A strat I like to use for hourglass is to only check cams 3, 4, and 8. If you see hourglass in any of those cams, you'll know which action to do when they get to the desk. If you don't see them, then simply stand still on the left with the lights off, since the only cams they could be in are cams 5 and 9. For Mortimer, make sure to always shut off his cam at least once in between every office cycle. If you have to do it right after the office cycle, keep his cam selected before flipping down the cam, and once you flip it up, quickly shut off the camera. And finally, for the face, you can use their aggressive buff to further stall characters by having the lights off in the office without cam max blows. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I explained it better in the guide. Nightmare at Disney was more of a test to see if you have the game's mechanics down. This challenge is that, but also a big memory test. I guarantee most of your devs will be to one of these two. But with enough practice, you'll be able to beat SMU. Let's go! Holy shit, I didn't know where Hourglass was at the desk. And now we've gotten to the main attraction, SSM. I kept the last two sections brief because I already explained them in the opening guide, and I'm sure they aren't what you're here for. What you really want to see is the top 9 maximum. But before we get to how the mode works and how I beat it, yes, I did indeed complete it. Let's look back at the history of the maximums. It all started when, literally out of nowhere, I decided I wanted to complete 50 foot. I had heard about the fame of that maximum, and I was literally there when Malcolm completed it himself. I've always been a big fan of math in general, but I was never really a player of the series. Mostly because, honestly, I was kind of scared of being jump scared. But as time went on, I decided to face these fears and try to beat 50 foot. I know it's random for me to start playing FNAF with what's considered the hardest maximum in the franchise, but I knew that since people's first completions, new strategies were formed, and a lot of people had completed it themselves. Nowadays, the mode has more than 500 victors listed on the MML. This doesn't even include people who don't have their videos submitted, which is probably a lot. I started grinding it, and after a few weeks, I beat it. Then after that, I went back to the other games and completed their max modes too. After clearing pretty much every main game max mode, I was left with a question. Well, what now? I beat all the max modes from the games, so what do I do now? That's when I first encountered the Bones 5 Rat and Cat all challenges. If there's anyone I have to thank, it's him, because if I never watched this video, I probably wouldn't have known about the MML and reached the heights I've reached today. So, thank you. After watching that video, I really wanted to try my hand at that game. It looked like a crazy aim challenge, which I was actually excited for, since besides FNAF games, I like playing shooters and Osu, which is a rhythm game mainly about shooting aim. And so I began. I spent countless hours learning and mastering the game, until one day, I completed Rat and Cat all challenges Koji Laser, which at the time was ranked at number 35 on the opponent list. When it was in the main list, it was about top 50. Nowadays, the mode sits at number 49 on the main list, which is just crazy to think about. Now, I'm not going to talk about every completion, since at this point, there are many, but one singular completion stands out from the rest. Perfect Cacophony. When I completed that mode, it was placed at number 3 on the main list. Yes, at the time there were only 2 maximums considered harder than it.
That is crazy time.
It was easily the hardest maximum I had ever done. And until May 17th, it still wasn't the hardest completion, sitting at number 13 on the main list. Yeah, this mode fell off pretty hard. Ever since I beat it, the mode lost 11 ranks. It turns out this challenge wasn't actually as hard as people thought. Well, to be more specific, when it was first verified by 5747, it was actually that hard. But the game received balance patches since then, and now this is the commonly agreed placement. Although I didn't care that much, it was kind of annoying to lose my first ever top 10 completion, so I felt like I needed to reclaim that title. The only problem was that the grind to PC was really long and painful. Beating HGF alone took me about 1 month, and I didn't complete PC without many tough 5 AM trips. So to try for something harder would mean I have to go through those moments again. But before making a decision, I just looked back on this. All these people from my Discord server, all of you guys who decided to support all of what I've been doing, there was really only one option. I had to do this. One game that has always been a pleasure to me was none other than Fnatic itself. And as soon as I started playing, I completed Nightmare Edition, beat SF, beat Silent Night, and then was SSC. Again? I don't, actually. This actually was the ultimate one-on-one challenge. To beat it, I needed to use 100% of my willpower and put together all the knowledge to complete these challenges and have really good reaction skills so that my game plan could significantly further each Silent Night character. In case you're wondering, Silent Night adds two things: a unique buff to all the characters and power. This buff only happens during the default Silent Night. This happens at any hour, and when it does, 3 random characters get chosen from the Silent Night equivalent of the time of the Silent Night, which is 30 seconds. However, it has one more power function than most characters. When you set up a power during one hour, it will shut off a character that you got. After 6 seconds, a tick of transmission will be added. Then after 3 seconds, other ticks will be added. The amount of power gained is proportional to the time. The more you have, the more power you gain. Running out of power will pretty much end your run, since you aren't allowed to do anything about it. So how did I manage all of this? Well, by downloading a video game that says so. The final hour is pretty simple. The first hour, the first time I played Captain, and the last hour I played Stinge. Nothing smart.
Now I've only done this once in my life. Just trying to work through things.
The first hour is easily the most simple. No one gets buffed, so it's literally just SF but with power. The Blizzcode in each hour is always shutting off a power coin during a gym cycle, just before doing an upper cycle, and right after switching to offensive. A movement I had to practice a lot was this one. Clicking on a power coin and stepping on it, and clicking on a green square and clicking it. All really, really fast. This combination is the best time to follow any CPM power class. The only thing SSC can do is make it harder. Since the default power function is effective, I chose it right out of the gate. The last hour, as you see, is really fun, as this is the default power, and you will die myself. I'll leave this link in the description, but it's one of the hardest Silent Night hours to beat. I played this hour for one hour. I set myself to dying by targeting someone completely on the left or right of my characters. I found that always completing this one hour is not to be very good luck anyway, is literally the most useless buff in the game. It really looks scary while it can, but the sheer speed gain that SSF makes it so you're constantly switching between enemies. To put into perspective how easy this buff is, this is the only character in the entire game I've never died to. It says I have one death, but that's because I intentionally died to it when guiding it. In tier 3, you get some characters that are easy to deal with, but can kill you if you appear at the wrong time. This embodies most of the time you've not played any threat before. But having spawned at the wrong time once, while buffed, the run could easily end. Pete's fault isn't that different from the first time around, but if things get too hectic, like you can lose tempo immediately and lose control. We're already buffed for something like that, but he's running really fast, so whenever he does get to the new buff, he might catch up with us. In smth, we have the right order. When you get buffed, you're already right where you need to see. Impurity's silent buff is pretty annoying. When they get buffed, you take a heal challenge instant at the same time. We get cycles where PLM and CT spawn one after the other, along with the phase too. I only really notice it when he's still a few frames. While he isn't buffed, he can easily make you lose a turn. Because you have to shed 2 thermals to deal with the cycle phase attack, he most likely offsets the rest of the options. If you have to resync them due to the phase, you'll just press start and you'll still win. If you can't do this, you can't really win. The silent buff on Impurity is the most annoying freaking boss in the game. When they get buffed, it takes so long to reset them fully. I've lost so many games to these buffs simply because I lost so much time on the stupid buff that it wasn't very efficient. Later on though, Pete's absence basically destroys the run, because when he gets put up buff, he won't have time to reset his ability. Trust me, he actually has a pretty decent smth reset time. For Pete's sake, he just times it to all the way. But when it does, you'll hate it.
Holy oxygen stinge, bruh.
Bro, I could have sworn it was cam 3, man! I was like literally chilling. I was so sure it was cam 3, I was literally just waiting for the next cycle.
I was so close, bro. I was so freaking close. I could have been Pizza Man halved oxygen, but it didn't. That's so annoying. That is so annoying. I was so close, but I messed up the true 4.
You should not be wearing that hat. A robot should not be